Wake up, it's Monday, but it's a short week for most people, so it shouldn't be that bad. I'm your host, Sean. This is The Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Simulcast over with our good friends at KLRN. I do like the way Rick sends it off to me now. Dropkick Murphy shipping up to Boston. It's always a lovely way. Such a great band. If you don't like the Dropkicks, I get problems with you. Look, live chat's open. I don't care where you are, Facebook, everywhere but X. X doesn't play well with this software for some reason. But YouTube, like and subscribe. Twitch, like and subscribe. Facebook, like and share. Do all those things. Help a brother out. So much to talk about today. Still waiting for a last huge appointment coming out of the incoming administration. We're going to talk about that. Talk about Thanksgiving just for a second. I was going to play the KLRN, the WKRP turkey drop. Rick just played it, but it's such a long clip, and I'm only doing an hour. If I was doing 2 hours, anywho, then I might. But that's neither here nor there. But let's get talking to who's going to run the FBI under Donald Trump. But first, now for something completely different. I saw this from the Lectern guy. If you don't follow him on X, he's hysterical. If you don't know who he is, I don't know how to. He was the guy that was the famous pitcher walking out during January 6th with the Lectern under his arm. Hysterical follow on X, though. He really posts some really funny stuff. He posted this earlier. Because as we get closer to the end of the Biden administration, we do have to not worry, but be mindful, I guess is a better way of putting it, of the pardons. Will he pardon Hunter? Won't he pardon Hunter? I think he will. I think that's one of the reasons why Hunter pled guilty. But as is tradition, presidents do pardons around Thanksgiving of the turkeys. And here's two of them. And whoever photoshopped, I don't know if the Lectern guy did that or if somebody else did that, of Hunter, it's absolutely freaking amazing. It just made me laugh hysterically. So the FBI, who's going to lead the FBI? Everyone's pointing to Kash Patel. Who's Kash Patel? Well, Kash Patel is no slouch. First of all, I think he gets a lot of slack because people think he's a lot younger than he is. He's 44 years old. I think a lot of people think he's in his early 30s. Dude's been around. What has he done? He was on the National Security Council. He was the acting director of DNI, National Intelligence. Let's see. He also was a federal prosecutor, a state prosecutor, public defender. He's worked a ton of cases. The man has the pedigree for it. And if you compare him to Christopher Wray, who kind of has less, honestly, in his background, he was older. He had more years of experience, but his training and his education, it's not that much different. And we've seen that a lot, right? We've seen we've seen them attack people's pedigree, and then you go around and look at the people who are currently in that position, and you have to laugh because a lot of them, Merrick Garland was not this amazingly overly tenured judge and lawyer. Yeah, I mean, he did some stuff, but it wasn't like he was the end all be all. Like, look, I'll say it right now. Ted Cruz is more qualified, in my opinion, than Merrick Garland was to lead the DOJ. That you just look at their side-by-side pedigree, right? So they're all jumping all over Kash Patel. And I like Kash. I actually think Kash is a good dude. He's very straightforward. He's pretty honest. He's been a pretty staunch conservative. To say that every single thing that comes out of his mouth I agree with, no, but there's nobody that I will ever agree with 100% all the time. Some of my best friends and closest friends who we share an ideology and family, who we share like ideology, we still disagree. And we're seeing a lot of that right now on social media. We're seeing a lot of people disagreeing. I had somebody disagree with me on X the other day, and I posted it because I was saying, just throwing around theories and ideas, right? Because that's what we do. And I said the amount of money that one entire fiscal year that Doge shaves, people should get a rebate check from the government so you can see how much of your money was being wasted. One time, just to see it in person. I'm a big believer that people don't pay attention, and I was guilty of this. People don't pay attention to their personal finances because everything's on a card. It's not real money to them. They just swipe it until it doesn't go anymore. Not everybody, but a lot of people. They just swipe it till it doesn't work. This is why I made that suggestion, is people need to understand how much your individual tax burden is when the federal government's out just spending money left and right like it's absolutely nothing. Sorry, I'm answering a chat. So that was my idea. It's like, hey, that 1 year, one time only, let people see how much of their tax burden was being wasted. And it is waste. Look, I want Doge to go top to bottom. Every federal agency, you just had the Pentagon fail another audit. 7th in a row, 8th in a row. Chat room will correct me, I know. But they failed another one. We need a top to bottom, fine-tooth comb run through of every federal agency inside and out. And I want Doge to actually do that. I want that to be their mission. I want that to be their goal. Because not every federal employee, not every federal agency, 7th time that they failed. Thanks, Rick. But most agencies, there's a tremendous amount of waste. Most agencies, the people that work in there forget who they work for. They think it's the guy down the corner office. You know, when I worked in public sector, I reminded myself of that on a regular basis, that I worked for people. Taxpayers paid me. But you don't see that. And not everybody on a state, local, and federal level, but you see it a lot. Where they'll be like, oh, I'm not going to take care of this computer. Like, I dropped it again. Haha, I'll just get another one tomorrow. That ideology is present. It's very much present in a lot of workplaces, private and public, but it's very present in the public sector, right? You have buildings sitting in Washington, D.C. right now that are empty, that we're paying a ton of money for because everyone's working from home. So that gives you my idea as to why I was saying it would be beneficial for Americans to see it one time. And somebody said, well, that would kind of destroy the whole theory of Doge because you're giving that money out for 1 year. If we did a top to bottom and we're saving however much money, hundreds of billions of dollars, for 1 year to show American people how much government wastes so they stay more involved, I think is worth it. I really do. But somebody disagreed with me. His name was Craig. And it was amazing because it was one of the most respectful, polite, and intelligent disagreements that I've had on social media for a long time. He wasn't sitting in one corner yelling at me. I wasn't sitting in the other corner. I was listening to him. We went back and forth. I even thanked him. That is going on more and more. There are a lot of people who say, and Rick brought this up with Gates in his show earlier, but there are a lot of people who say, oh, I don't disagree with Matt Gaetz, but I have problems with X, Y, and Z. I said Friday with Pam Bondi. I like Pam Bondi, but she has to explain her approval or support for red flag laws. Red flag laws, in my opinion, are terrible. You have to understand when it comes to taking away somebody's rights, there has to be a procedure. And even with temporary restraining orders, and I'll tell you right now, having worked in law enforcement, I saw plenty of temporary restraining orders that were issued. And when they get issued in a domestic violence or any other situation with the temporary restraining order, one of the first things that law enforcement does because of state laws is to take the person's firearms who's being restrained. And emergency restraining orders are literally somebody makes an allegation, they say that they scared, they ask for a restraining order, law enforcement shows up, they take a report, they call an on-call judge, and until that is seen in court the next day or Monday, if it happens over the weekend, that restraining order is in place. And then if it gets dropped that Monday, then you have to go through the process of getting your firearms back. And I'm not saying they're never given back. It's just a process. But imagine where else they can suspend your rights without a trial. So red flag laws are bad. And I want Pam Bondi to explain that. I will tell you that of all the people that engaged with me on those conversations, nobody was really that mean and harsh. It's really funny because one of the things that we've seen over the last 2 weeks is all these liberal pant wetters post-election who hate everything, hate life, blah, 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 blah. We're all going to hell, blah, 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 blah. And they've gone over to Blue Sky. Or they say they're going over to Blue Sky, but they're less and less on X right now, which is stupid. I was still on X and Twitter back in the day when we were being throttled, when we were being flagged for every little thing that they say, or that we would say that they disagreed with, hate speech, yada, yada, yada. We didn't run away. We were still there. But the left is doing that to Blue Sky right now. And Blue Sky, by the way, has a tremendous, for it being a majority leftists over at Blue Sky right now, apparently they're having a serious issue with child prawn and pedophilic accounts. Just throwing that out there. That's not me. Those were news reports, not me. But they stopped wanting to engage here, so they ran away. They got mad, and actually, Elon Musk posted over the weekend, I thought I saved it and I didn't, the fact that the amount of so-called hate speech and keywords, etc., that were being flagged before are being used so much less now on X. But the left ran away, and now, post-election, when everybody, I said this Friday, you can feel this collective sigh. A lot of us were exhausted going into the election. I'll tell you right now, election night, the 8 hours that we were on the air was an eternity. It was just a long time leading into this election. And I think people now are relaxed. I think people now more be like, well, we can disagree. And I'm giving credit. We can disagree on this, but here's what I feel, blah, 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 blah. And that's awesome because I said before, one of the things that would be fantastic that would come at the end of the Trump administration is, as a nation, if we could start to interact normally again. I know that burden doesn't primarily fall on conservatives. Are some of us loud and boisterous? Yes, but usually it's because conversations have started with us with accusations, name calling, and yelling, right? On the left, having an opinion often that disagrees is considered an affront, an assault, and they start screaming and yelling. You don't have to take my word for it. Go on social media and see the people losing their minds still over Trump winning the election. It's absolutely insane. Insane. I mean, the head shaving, the 4B, 4H, whatever classroom, all this stuff, people leaving the country, or people using, well, in Ellen's case, she was using the Biden law or the Kamala loss as her reason to leave the country, but everyone's saying it's the Diddy files. I haven't seen them all, but I'm just saying sometimes there is fire when there's smoke. But that's something that I hope by the time we get through this next 4 years, that the left can do some soul searching. I'm not holding my breath before everybody in the chat on YouTube and everything else lights me up. I'm not holding my breath. But I am hoping, and after the break, I'm going to play a couple clips. I'm hoping they can start to bring the temperature back down. See, one of the things that we've seen in the last year that has been proven and come to light more and more and more is that media on the left was intentionally lying. We've highlighted that on my show, Joe's show, River Common Sense, BZ, everybody over at KLRN. We've all seen it. We all highlighted they were fear-mongering. And now you're starting to see some of them change direction. We'll go, not because they're virtuous, because their numbers are so poor and they have to change direction. But it is still a lesson as to this is what happens when you lie over and over and over again. When you fearmonger over and over and over again. The man who is literally Hitler, according to millions of people in this country, Morning Joe went and had a conversation with. Jack Smith just dropped charges. The man who's literally Hitler is going to destroy the world, going to destroy the country, blah, 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 blah. All that crap that they were saying for the last 2 years, or when he finally declared. All of a sudden now, you had Chucky Schumer last week saying, well, maybe we can be bipartisan. You have other leftists who are like, well, maybe we should back off the rhetoric a little bit. Look, I hate to say it, but Anna Kasparian, I'm going to play a clip from her earlier from the Young Turks. She was one of the worst. And she just did a clip that I'll play later saying, I was maybe out over my skis. He broke my brain a little bit. Like taking responsibility for some of the stuff she said. Her friend, Cenk Uygur, has been more realistic. He's not suddenly a conservative. Don't get me wrong. He's not a Trump supporter. Don't get me wrong. But he's actually coming out and saying, hey, I can actually agree with Doge, which a lot of leftists hate for some reason. I can agree with Doge when it comes to the whole military generals not working for military contractors for 10 years after they retire, blah, 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 blah. You're starting to see them trying to correct a course because the course has been not only right into the iceberg, proverbially, but they were going to back that shit up and run it right back in again. And that's what they did this past election. They did it again, and it cost them. And now they're finally starting to get the hint. I'm up against a break because I was prattling on the entire time. I don't have my break queued up. You would think I'd be better at this, but I'm not. Look, please like and subscribe anywhere you're watching the show. By the way, thank you to Jersey Joe, who realized, my friend Reaver Common Sense, who'll be on tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, who realized that all of my shows on YouTube were set to private. He realized that this weekend. We fixed it. I appreciate it, Joe. I don't miss a lot when it comes to technology, but apparently I was a dummy there. So we'll take a break. We come back and play those clips I was talking about, get into a little bit more Thanksgiving stuff maybe. We'll see right here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network and KLRN Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network and KLRN. Please like and subscribe wherever you're listening from. Help a brother out. Even if you hate me, subscribe so you can get the notification when I come on, and you can come into the chat room. That's open and harass me. I dare you. I double dog dare you. So we're talking a little bit about leftists and the media changing course. And I'm going to give this example, and then I'm going to play the CEO of Axios after that because it was just amazingly comical. But here's a clip from The View. Notice a change in their tone.
I think what we're all saying is we're going to sit and watch. We're going to wait and see because we can't do anything else except.
I'm not going to wait and see. I mean, this guy is. He's a retribution. He's
what are you going to do? What are you doing? Like, there's nothing to be done until you know what you're fighting. It's pissing in the wind doesn't help. You just get a wet face.
But I mean, what I'm saying is I have no false expectations that at 78 he's going to all of a sudden turn into another human being. And I'm not going to spend. I spent weeks telling people that he was apocalyptic. I'm not going to change now because it's still the same man.
Treating every single thing like
I think that's when we lose credibility.
Well, here's the thing: you lose credibility in many different ways. If you don't know what you're talking about and you accuse him of something, then they're going to blow it back. That's why I say we need to wait and see exactly what you're going to do. I think what we're all saying is we're going to sit and watch.
That was The View. That was The View saying that. Now, mind you, 3 times last week, they had to come back after a statement was made by one of their hosts and issue a clarification so they didn't get sued, is exactly why. Because they were making ridiculous comments. But that's a little bit of a course correction there. Look, for The View, that's enormous. That I mean, three legal disclaimers and then that comment by Whoopi Goldberg of all people. That's incredible. And how is the media overall taking the loss? And not only just the loss of the election, but the loss of control. And I talked about this on the show a million times. The pant wetting that you see in media about X and politicians, about X and freedom of speech is enormous. And you might ask why. And I've said this 100 times. I'll say it again. Because they're losing control. They've lost control to be able to control the narrative. They've lost the ability to be able to push it down your throat over and over again. Why? Because you can fact check it in real time and then share that fact check, a real fact check, with sources and documents with other people on X. It's really amazing. And like I said, you don't have to agree with everybody's opinion. You don't even have to look when it comes to like people saying hateful and mean things on the internet. You know, I'm one of those people. It's like, I'd rather know who the jerk is. I would rather know who the jerk is. Say the stupid thing and let us all judge you. And then when you fall into oblivion because everybody blocks you and ignores you, you did it to yourself. But when people hide their opinions in darkness, that's when they start to get their little groups together. That's where they start to like do some subversive stuff. And they there's no way to combat it. So they just grow and grow and grow. So this is Jim Van Dehe. I think I pronounced that right. The National Press Club honors. He's the CEO of Axios. And he had, for lack of a better term, a shit fit.
Matters. Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day or X today saying like, we are the media. You are the media. My message to Elon Musk is bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like that's nonsense. Like being a reporter is hard, really hard.
First of
you
all,
have to care.
Journalists did this to themselves. When they started to choose sides instead of just report, they did this to themselves. They started down the path to obscurity. You want to talk about Al Jazeera? He threw that out there. Al Jazeera has been caught lying so many times and bigly. When you have destroyed your discipline, your job, when you've destroyed what it means to be a journalist because everything you do is propaganda, you've destroyed journalism. Journalism is now fresh again and starting over because the left, the legacy media, decided they were going to start controlling a narrative and pushing for an agenda politically to change the thinking of the nation. And that's all legacy media. They stopped being honest. You go to any of these legacy media outlets and you watch how little actual news it is. It's all opinion. And that's fine to have your opinion, but don't say we're journalists when it's all opinion. Are there a few real journalists out there? Yes. People that went to school, and when I say real journalists, I'm talking about legacy people who still do journalism. People who maybe went to school for journalism, but you have other people who are not journalists. I'm not a journalist. I'm a pundit. I'm a commentator. I have reported live news at times. And when I've done that, I've tried really hard to stay down the middle when I've covered something and just report what I'm getting. But everything, when you try to tell me that Al Sharpton is a journalist, it's all BS and lies. He's not a journalist. He's an interviewer. He's a pundit. He's a commentator. And that's okay. But stop conflating what true journalism is and all of those other things. And stop lying at the end of the day. Stop lying. You know, MSNBC, I played the clip, I showed the X post from Elon last week, is probably going away. Why is it going away? Because Comcast had to sell it off. Why do they have to sell it off? Because their numbers are garbage. Why are their numbers garbage? Because they did it to themselves. These are all self-inflicted injuries, forced errors. If this was sports, unforced, I should say, unforced errors. They did this to themselves. How many of their morning shows actually report news? How many of their afternoon shows actually report news? All of it's politically based. All of it is socially based. It's all emotionally based. They've created this hell. And then what do they do when you call them out on it? That's weird. Normally when I hit add to stream, there it is. They run away. Mika is leaving X. She's going over to Blue Sky like I talked about earlier. Right? They can blame conservatives all they want. But if they were just journalists, if they had some journalistic integrity, they wouldn't have to run away. Their numbers wouldn't be in the tank. But they couldn't help themselves. They wanted, somebody in chat room over on Facebook, called them Pravda, American Pravda outlets. BZ calls them the American media maggots. Whatever you want to call them, this was 100% their own doing. And now they're mad. They're mad because they're falling into obscurity. They're no longer they're no longer the legacy they once were. I was looking for another word, and then my brain just shut down on me because it's Monday and I haven't had enough caffeine yet. But what have they left in their wake? What damage have they done to the nation? Well, they've created people like this.
Can someone smarter than me help me very genuinely understand why I'm supposed to care if people immigrate to the US illegally? Like, obviously some people are just racist and some people are just stupid. But even like left-leaning people say, well, you got to do something about the border. Why? I don't understand why this should bother me in any way if as many people as want to come here. So if somebody could help me understand that would be great, because right now I just don't know why I should give a shit.
Basic civics, understanding what borders mean to nations, understanding why we have to vet who has to come into this country. Basic civics. And she's not that young, but because you've had so many people in the media ignore the border for so long, and then when it became an issue and they suddenly had to do something about it because they were going to get smoked in the election anyhow, they never explained the importance of borders. They were just like, well, we're having a little bit of an issue at a border. It's not that big of a deal. They undersold the problem. And they talk about like the EU and other places, specifically the EU, where borders are starting to fade away, and what that does to an integrity of a nation. If you do not have a border, you do not have a nation. But there is good news.
Presidents get that boost coming out of their...
Along the trend of they're starting to correct their course and maybe starting to report things. And by the way, don't get me wrong. Plenty of them are starting to report a little bit more honestly. And I said this going into the election. I will say it again. They're reporting with a little more honesty because they need the ability to point back at a clip and say, look, we're objective. We played this. But this is on CNN that's actually showing this, and it blew my mind.
Take a look here. President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher, plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago, Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of
These are the same people that told you it was going to be a wipeout for Kamala. These are the same people that told you that Trump was never going to win a second term. These are the same people who lied repeatedly about what was going to happen in the election when they knew it was coming. But now all of a sudden they're starting to report approval for Trump. Why? Because their numbers are so garbage, they have to get people to watch again. You know, I'm a big believer. I'm a huge believer in capitalism. And I've said a million times, if you don't like what a business does, you don't like their business practices, then you don't shop there. You don't give them your business. When it comes to media, just like social media, you are the product being sold. That is how they get advertisement. By numbers, those numbers are you, the viewer, the person who consumes it. And when you aren't there to be consumed, which you are, they sell you, then they can't sell you. You can't sell something you don't have. So it further shows that there's massive course correction being done. And it's going to start slow. I mark my words, November 25th, 2024, it's 12:37 p.m. Pacific time. In his third year, the next year, they're going to try everything they can to obstruct him. By his third year, they're going to, if his approval ratings stay up, if he does what he says he's going to do, if he follows through and the conservatives follow through and this country is going in the direction that I believe it will, watch how much more approval there will be. They're going to act like they never opposed Trump. Because that's what legacy media does. They latch on to whatever they think will make more money. They boost it over and over and over again to sell advertisement. And they were getting away with it for years, which is why you had NBC edit the 911 tape in the Trayvon Martin case. When Obama turned around and said that could be my son, media changed. It was already leaning left. They ran hard left. And that's why you have DEI and wokeism and blah, 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 blah. Media caused all of that. That's why they are garbage. They destroyed the soul and the fabric of their nation. They took away critical thinking. They took away opinion and started cancel culture. This is why I think before the Happy New Year's, that I think that Elon Musk is going to end up buying MSNBC. And then when we come back, I'm going to show you another lunatic who I don't think is going to have a job for too long. But here I am up against a break. Right here on the SHR Media Network, simulcast over at KLRN. You're listening to The Edge of Liberty. We will be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Hey, wherever you're watching from, you do me a favor, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee, green screen problems. I'll do this one. That works. It's still weird. You do it over there. If you want to buy me a cocktail, it's on that side. Before we go into the break, we're talking about how some in the media are starting their little course corrections because they looked stupid. They looked dumb. I won't play the clip, but there was a clip on Piers Morgan tonight where Cenk Uygur and I can't remember the professor's name were going at each other's throats. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. They're freaking out on the left. Has everybody fixed it? Nope. Are some people still just staying just entrenched with Trump derangement syndrome? By the way, shrmedia.com. You can click on Trump derangement syndrome. We do have a help page if you want to send that to some of your friends. It will tell them how they can get help for the Trump derangement syndrome. It's a great troll. Do a little bit.ly so they can't see. Send the link over. Have a blast. But here comes Joyless Reed telling us the left should act at Thanksgiving.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast and things get ugly and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them.
Turn people in?
And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, people might, may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving,
I don't know what the hell
like,
kiki is.
I think you're kind of missing the point of what people are upset about. They're afraid.
This is absolute insanity. This is stoking the flames of fear. This is an intentional act to try and get people who might love each other to not anymore. And I'll tell you what she is more afraid of, and she'll never admit this because she's out of her mind, and I do believe that. She's more afraid that if you have a conversation with somebody on the right, that they might actually start giving you information you didn't have because you sucked on the teat of legacy media for so long. That's what they're afraid of. It goes back to the control aspect of it. It goes back to them being able to tell you what to think. When all of a sudden the Mexican president is changing her tune completely because of one phone call with Trump, something's getting accomplished. When you have Adam Schiff, who comes out and says, yeah, Marco Rubio is qualified. Adam Schiff. And yeah, he had his issues with Pam Bondi or whatever. He's not gonna just mindfully go along. They're trying to turn the page. Ro Khanna saying that he will work with Doge in some places because he thinks it's a good idea, specifically at the Pentagon. They're trying to turn the page. And why? Well, first of all, because they look like assholes. Let's just be honest. But the other thing that you have to mind is in Britain right now, which is turned into Soviet Britain, people getting arrested for putting opinions online, people getting arrested for comments they're making and doing time. First Amendment, what we would consider the First Amendment, free speech is gone in the UK right now. Absolutely gone in the UK. There was just a petition started by, I think it was Nigel Farage's party, that was calling for an immediate general election. They just had their election, 2 months ago? 2 million signatures in less than 40 hours. Because the socialists over there / communists threw the country in one direction so damn fast. Don't get me wrong, the UK was starting to slide that way slowly over the years. But when this new government came in, they were sprinting to the left. They were sprinting. They're getting arrested for thought crimes. There was somebody prosecuted for silently praying outside an abortion clinic. Didn't interfere with anybody. Didn't talk to anybody, but was arrested and prosecuted for it. They are seeing the writing on the wall that you can't do that to that extreme. Not yet. We've always said that the Democrats have a 100-year plan. And in the last 8 years, 12 years, they really try to hit the gas on it. But they're looking over at the UK. They're looking at how, and in this country, we just sent the mandate that we do not want that to be the status quo in this country. The UK sending that mandate. You're seeing it in other countries in Europe as well. Sorry, the UK is trying to send that mandate. Because wokeism, leftist ideology, this socialist aspect to life that they're trying to push as a good thing is being rejected by and large. We just had this huge referendum. Look, CNN's reporting approvals for Donald Trump. You had Whoopi, as I played earlier. Whoa, we should really back off. They got the message. That does not mean that they're going to stop. But they got the message. Jack Smith dropping the charges. They got the message. First of all, Jack Smith was never we all know. It was all political. The whole reason Jack Smith got appointed, he was a do-nothing, know-nothing. He was a lousy prosecutor. He was sent over to The Hague, that joke, to do nothing over there. And then they brought him back from The Hague. Do you remember the headlines? They called him back to The Hague like he was on the front line battles. You had Van Jones talking about how proud he was. You had Jack Smith do the Subway interview, right? They tried to make this guy into a hero. He had to drop the charges because it was all political. And if they kept going, they would have gotten their asses handed to him in court and they would have looked even worse. You still have some that hold on. Chicago, Maura Healey in Massachusetts, California, talking about how they're still a sanctuary state and blah, 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 blah. Because Trump appointed Tom Homan as the borders are, and he's going to start deporting people. And these, we're going to reject it. We're going to stop it. We're going to, Look. (18 USC 1510). I had to double check it. It's obstruction of government process. If you are a politician who is obstructing and hiding illegals in some states, it's actually that would be considered harboring a no fugitive. Prosecute them. Start prosecuting people for it. Mayors, Prosecute mayors. Governors, prosecute governors. Who cares? Because it's not a political prosecution. Just because they're doing it for politics doesn't mean that's a political prosecution. They're getting in the way. If you or I, a normal person, knowingly obstructed a federal prosecution or a federal investigation, you'd be prosecuted. Look at January 6th. How many people are still in jail for January 6th? At best, it was a trespassing charge. And they're still sitting there. Because that's what they do to normal people who disagree. And you have to keep that in mind. They're going to be course correcting. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security. Do not, for a second, think that they don't have plans. And why have we fought so hard? Why have we fought against leftist ideology? Why have we fought against woke and the hive mind? Because you have cases like this. Father who pleaded with pediatrician ex-wife not to chemically castrate their 9-year-old son is dealt a crushing blow from a California court. Folks, whatever your theory is for people as adults, I think it was Britain 6-7 months ago came out with a report saying, hey, we should probably stop with all of these hormones and chemicals we're throwing into these kids because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. Which seems reasonable to like not jam stuff full of kids or chemically castrate or alter their bodies, children. But the left is totally okay with it. Not everybody, but most of the left. Other things that the left is okay with. The NATO Military Committee chairman says that there's a consideration of a preemptive strike in Russia. That was reported today. Leftist ideology. Let's run into war. They're all of a sudden war hawks. We're having reports now that the Biden administration was considering giving Ukraine nukes. It's bad enough they have long-range weapons that we gave them, that they're using our satellites and our intel to fire into Russia. France just did it as well. Are they wagging the dog or just stupid? Either way, it doesn't matter. This is what the left has become. Stuff like this. Add to stream. Come on, dummy. There it is. Barb McQuaid. She was one of the 51 security people who said that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Skipping FBI background investigations for presidential employees would violate the norms designated to protect the public and our national security. My thoughts in Bloomberg. I love how she phrased that. Skipping the FBI background checks. She leaves out an important part that they were going to have a third party who's qualified and used for other federal background investigations do it because of what we've seen over at the FBI and the DOJ. Why would you trust any of them? Why? Peter Strzok and his girlfriend Paige. We're going to stop Trump. There's issues over there. And as a matter of fact, if one of them had a brain in their head, they'd come out and say, you know what? I understand. I understand. I wish they would do the FBI thing, but I get it because there may be some problems there. Headbutting, if you will. But nope. And she was one of the ones who said that the Hunter Biden laptop, which we know now is true, and it changed the outcome of the last election. Because if you go back and you look at the amount of people that said they would have changed their vote if they had the laptop, odds are Trump would have won the last election. And before everyone jumps down my throat about election interference and stuff like that, that's a different conversation. I just meant face value. I hate how I have to throw out a disclaimer every time you talk about 2016. I know what you're saying. But I'm just talking about this in a box, just this thing right here. And how mentally skewed were they? And I spoke about this earlier, Anna Kasparian, and this will probably be my last clip because I got to get out of here. But watch this. Watch what she says. She's been more and more honest about things lately. And like I said, I'm sure there's a reason for it. It's not just because she's suddenly seen the light entirely. But watch this.
Politics has substituted religion to some extent. People have almost like this religious zealotry toward their political beliefs. And when that happens, it's really difficult to have a conversation with someone without it immediately devolving into allegations of bad faith, of, lying, deception, all sorts of things.
The left did this. I'm going to pause this for a second. The left did this. They were the ones that forced this. They were the ones that forced politics into the public sphere. It used to be people didn't talk about politics with the exception of a few really close friends and family. They forced us into the public sphere. Get into their faces. You remember that? When Trump was in office last time? Wherever they're eating, wherever they're in public, you get into their faces. They absolutely did everything to run a blitzkrieg on politics. They forced you to have political conversations. People I didn't know that well or hardly at all would ask me who I was voting for, and then when I would tell them, they would get mad and tell me while I was wrong. People that I never would have answered that question before. And if you refused to answer it, they'd say, well, I already know, yada, yada, yada. It wouldn't accept the answer. I don't know you. I don't want to talk about politics with you. They forced that to happen.
Things. And so maybe that's part of it. But honestly, I didn't really notice this as an issue in America until Donald Trump was running for president. And then after he got elected as president. And
I'm not done because I still want to rant about that, about the left forcing this. Woke ideology forced this. And when you've made this an issue in colleges and universities, it forced this. They forced us to have the conversation, then got mad when they heard our opinion. They were protests and marches and cities being burnt down. They absolutely were the ones who turned politics into a religion. We responded. Conservatives responded because they started to deteriorate the fabric of this nation. They forced us to respond, and then they got mad at the response. I'm sorry, it just pisses me off when they say, well, it's become a religion. Well, why? And I know she's having a moment of clarity here, but this became a religion or like a religion because you forced it to be. You forced the woke ideology. You forced the DEI. You forced all of that crap down our throats. It infected our workplaces and infected our homes. We had to respond because you made it into a religion.
I am 1,000,000% guilty of honestly allowing him to kind of break my brain for a little bit. Because I saw him as such a significant threat.
And that was a huge, she's right. And I know like I'm being harsh on her right now, but they don't be in the public space. People are harsh on me, tough shit. But the reality is they created this situation and some of them are starting to come out of the Trump derangement fog, either to save their careers, to save the money in their bank, or to save some sort of credibility. Or maybe there's going to be a few that are honest. Rick talked about the last show, how people have evolved in their thinking. But never forget why it got to the point that it did. It's because they wanted it that way. And then when it failed, not Anna Kasparian, but others are still blaming conservatives for it. No. You woke the sleeping giant. We were happy just going to pull the handle and then go home. But no, you forced us into the conversation. You forced us into the fight. And this is what happens. Folks, that's going to be it for me. I didn't do any of the Thanksgiving stuff. I'm sorry. I hope you have a happy and wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you have a ton of food. I hope you have a ton of family, a ton of friends. Really enjoy it. It's one of those holidays that I think gets grossly overlooked. It's your time to visit with friends and family that you love. Even if you can't do it physically, you have the technology to do it remotely. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of the people around you to be able to share time. And yeah, don't talk politics if you don't want to. Talk football, whatever, but appreciate the people you are with. Appreciate your friends. Appreciate your nation, because you're absolutely fortunate to live in this country. I'm fortunate. If it wasn't such a great nation, we wouldn't have millions of people trying to sneak in on a regular basis. You've been watching The Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Coming up tonight, Reaver of Common Sense right here on the SHR Media Network. Starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. The amount of math I have to do every single time I say that in my head to make sure it's right is insane. Please like, subscribe, share. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN for simulcasting. I hope you have a great holiday. I hope you have a great week. And I will see you Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific, right here on The Edge of Liberty. Thank you.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from The Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.